Welcome back, everyone. It is a brand new series starting off on Interloper. In the top left, as the blue Protoss, he is MaSa.
And in the bottom right, the literal god of North America, it's the yellow Protoss player, Neeb. From, what was the name of his team again? What was the name of that sponsor?
It rhymes with ding. The dingus.
Ting?
It's Ting!
Ling?
Close enough.
He's not a Zerg player. But
No. But
Ting, yes, indeed.
he is on an awesome team that is sponsoring this tournament. We've had 3 other seasons that have been a blast, and Ting is awesome to work with. I guess it's not really announced, but they said we can announce it whenever we want. But we are also going to be working with / for them at TwitchCon, which is pretty cool. Just something they do at TwitchCon is actually kind of what I'm looking forward to. But if you guys are going to TwitchCon, we'll all be there. Me, Rifkin, some of the people from Ting, Fear Dragon as well.
Yeah.
Definitely come by and say hi.
Indeed. But definitely looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's in roughly a week and a half or almost 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, a week and 4 or 5 days.
It's going to be a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
okay, we already got a little bit of probe harassment coming out over here from Neeb. Nearly gets an SCV, but it seems like the Marine will eventually chase this back. Man, this is a lot of people still don't think of it this way, but I actually think that this is a really cool rivalry that has existed in the North American scene for a long time. Neeb, in a lot of ways, has definitely overtaken MaSa in terms of results and everything, but MaSa just comes out of nowhere every so often and says, no, to hell with you and whatever your results you've gotten, I am still a contender with you, and still just surprises, I think, a lot of people by upsetting versus Neeb.
Yeah, I think it was a stronger potential rivalry back when Neeb was still, like, not quite getting to the winners of WSS events, much less actually winning. He's having trouble against Hydra, which I think was a brief rivalry because of how often they did meet each other. And then he kind of got over that and then won the Kespa Cup and then started winning everything else. And everyone was like, okay, well, MaSa doesn't do nearly as well, so it's a kind of a forgotten rivalry. But when they do meet each other, it can be fun games. It can even be close games if MaSa has a particularly good night. And Neeb has a particularly bad night, I suppose. But, I mentioned this in the last series, Neeb versus Puck, after it was finished. And I would think for Neeb, who is probably just entirely prepping for BlizzCon, these are little blips on his radar, his expectation is to not drop a map. And anything less is like, I messed up.
No, absolutely. I don't think that you're wrong on that. Neeb has gone hyper concentration mode on BlizzCon in a lot of ways, so we'll see how this one pans out. He's going to be moving out without a depth, but the Marines have already taken out the rocks at exactly the right time. So not only did Neeb kind of just encounter the rocks over there, but I think the pathing was set so that he was still going to go toward that location first. Now the Phoenix is going to be popping out behind this. This is like I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Zombie Grub, because Phoenix Adept to me is still like what I consider an almost old school style of PvT these days.
Oh yeah, I agree. Whenever I see Phoenix Adept, I'm like, okay, they're bringing out an old style. Even though, really, I think it was super popular only 5 months ago. Yeah, that sounds about right. Maybe 6 months ago. But it is something that that kind of comes back. It kind of reminds Terran players too, like, hey, you have to play defensive against me, because we've kind of come full circle back to strategies where the Terran can be aggressive, where they can do Liberator pushes or drops. But Phoenix Adept really slammed that in the face and was like, no, you have to be defensive, to wait for the Liberators. So I definitely agree it's kind of an older style, and I actually hope that Neeb doesn't do it this game, specifically because MaSa has already gone for a 3rd CC and is already willing to be super defensive. Like, he would just kind of be playing into his hands.
It's sort of funny, because I think that very much so, like in a straight up macro game, no real kind of complications, I actually just think that Neeb wins. And that's not like a slight to MaSa, but Neeb is Neeb for a reason. He is unbelievably solid. And MaSa is a player that thrives on aggression. He thrives on being able to put pressure on and doing mind games and everything. And yes, going for the faster CC, I do think that is going to favor MaSa, but I feel like this is going to be something that leads into, okay, I got up a better economy, but now I'm going to do some aggression with that better economy, is usually the way he likes to think. So I think that this is, in a lot of ways, something I do like versus MaSa. But at the same time, I also see your point that this could this could backfire very well if MaSa's playing really, really on point today.
Well, if they put actually on a Phoenix Adept, then, you know, first you make a bunch more Phoenix, right? It's like Phoenix, plural, Phoenix singular.
Yeah.
And then you even like kind of go into an attempted Adept bust if you can, and then if it doesn't work, you go into bigger and better things. Blink, Colossus, like whatever, right? More likely Storm. But at that point, they're also getting to a bunch of Liberators. And you're actually quite worried about Liberator pushes, which I'm sure MaSa is thinking of past this little aggressive drop. You mentioned he will be aggressive at some point. Sure, that makes sense. He's going to go for drops. He's going to do a couple pushes. But I think it's really going to be about powering up to, like, almost mass Liberators. That seems to be where the problems truly lie for Protoss. And Neeb did not go for Phoenix Adept. He went into Robo pretty quickly after realizing that it was a third CC, which, by the way, he never actually saw, but he saw the rest of the build, so we could still tell, like, the production and its flow is actually a scout in and of itself. And I think I already knew about it. So he's even maybe setting up for a fourth base before he saw this push come out.
Here we go. Scan comes down. Now, Neeb has had full vision of this push coming out just because he's had the revelation on both of those medevacs up until this second. A couple of force fields being thrown down. Lots of energy left around on those sentries as well. So doesn't look like he'll be really in too much danger from these two medevacs for now. And he even gets another revelation off, I believe, on those two medevacs.
Yeah, nicely done. MaSa wouldn't really want to push into an army that's just standing there until combat shields was done, and even then it's a little bit suspicious. So really just distracting perhaps for these two medevacs. Or getting a concave. The force fields will definitely cover one side, but maybe not expecting the left side could get pincered.
Yeah, especially if MaSa stims forward and goes after the sentries or something. Guardian shield thrown down. The sentries are getting target fire down, allowing these Marines to get back involved in the fight sooner rather than later. And I like that he even just picks up the remaining units on the other side. Goes back to regroup, but okay. Oracle getting a little bit of damage done. Not a ton, but spending some extra energy there.
Yeah, literally just noticing he had enough for like 2 seconds. It was not going to last very long. But that ended up still being a nice hold. I really like that MaSa was able to still snipe the sentries, so that looked very close.
Ooh.
Snipes another one.
Yeah, the Liberators starting to siege on forward, making things a bit more complicated for MaSa, but man, the Immortals also getting added into the mix are going to complicate things. Immortal number 1 does get sniped off, though, but MaSa's bleeding out quite a few units in the process.
Neeb just has to be on point about his macro behind this. You're up against MaSa, who was able to get to 3 bases pretty easily. The Oracle did not get any SCV kills, and macro to macro, he could still definitely beat out Neeb. Neeb's going to be looking towards a 4th base, so he definitely needed to push back this pressure. MaSa actually, I think a bit of wisdom here, just pulls back instead of potentially being overrun, and is going to reposition towards what he expects to be a 4th base on the way.
Yeah, and it's actually going to be really, really good game insight right now from MaSa, as that is where the 4th base is going to be coming down. Oracle might get caught. Oh, the Liberators reveal it, and the stim going to go a little bit wasted. Even gets the revelation off, but here we go. Liberator sieging up just in time to kind of push back this army of Neeb a bit.
I know that Neeb always has another sentry to Guardian Shield. He's lost so many of them. I think 4 in total in this game, but always has one just barely with enough energy. He's ready to take this fight if push really comes to shove. As of for now,
whoa,
yeah,
what am I?
Attacking him, but he pushes in.
All right, Liberators sieging on up a little bit later, re-sieging I should say, and oh god, they're just getting abandoned as the medevacs end up loading up and trying to retreat on out of there. Neeb is on the hunt though. Blink has already been used once by these stalkers, but it's going to come off a cooldown pretty soon, and there it goes. 1 medevac, 2 medevacs. 3rd and 4th medevac's going to be cowering in the corner, trying to draw, and I will say there is some advantage to this because MaSa's establishing a 4th in the opposite direction, but oh, this is dangerous.
That single Phoenix comes back and it's like, I'm not useless. I'm great. Observer does see the push on the right side, but it is a ragtag group of units that are severely missing medevacs. Those medevacs are supposed to survive for much longer, allowing them to make nothing but Liberators for a time. Not so here, and a Colossus and a couple of Stalkers are already waiting.
Yeah, imagine if he had been able to just elevate over those medevacs. It would have been a world of difference, but Widowmine's burrowing. He's got to be a bit careful. Okay, he does actually manage to snag quite a few Stalker kills with that, but the remaining units really, really not that high in number, and even the Liberator is going to start getting focus fire down. Is there an observer with this army anywhere here for Neeb?
He's got 2 observers.
Okay.
Yeah, one with the army, or close enough by it. He's going to take out the Widowmines over here first, and then maybe, hopefully, remember that these are going to be on cooldown, off cooldown soon.
Nope.
Okay,
Oh,
Revelation.
okay, there we go. Revelation.
I was like, he's not moving that observer. Ah! Okay, but
Cutting
so
it
far,
close.
Neeb has done a great job defending. MaSa overseeing his welcome on this left side of this base. I'm so surprised that Neeb was so correct in snapping his jaws down on that push, but obviously it was quite the good move, because the longer you let them stay there, the more Liberators that come out, the more Widow Mines that come forward. You do gonna need to get rid of it as soon as possible, but I thought he was gonna wait for at least another warp in, but Neeb is pretty good at judging fights.
Yeah, definitely quite exceptional at it. And he's going to be adding on the Templar Archives, eventually getting up the transitions ready for Storm and High Templars and all that good old PvT shenaniganry. But it's worth noting that Ghost Academy just finished up for MaSa, and if there's one thing I do want to commend MaSa on, because I do like commending my North American players for their strengths, it would definitely be his control. He is really, really good at his control, and even especially late game control. While I would say he's more effective with smaller groups of units, his late game control is also pretty goddamn good. And Ghost control, Liberator siege ups, and everything, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he's going to try and micro this out versus Neeb.
I thought you were going to commend his macro, because certainly we will see his micro soon enough with this perfect army coming forward. I was really impressed to see that his fourth base was already established with a Sensor Tower and a Planetary, already on his way to a fifth base. He's actually matching the Protoss, which sounds silly to say if someone's like from Wings of Liberty, right? But in Legacy of the Void, it's actually kind of difficult to do. They usually start to out-expand you a little bit, but he's perfectly timed, really.
Okay, Liberator's starting to siege on up in a perfect spot to try and deny Neeb from easily defending his natural and all the buildings over there. One Colossus trying to do some work alongside those photon overcharges. Both Robos getting depowered over here. Neeb in a bit of trouble, but MaSa's army has started to suffer some losses.
Just barely stalling out the Disruptor. That could have been really helpful had it popped out on the right side of things. It's also going to get targeted down, so no Disruptor for Neeb. Liberator's getting a bit of trouble as well. This factory seems kind of funny being pushed onto the front lines, but it's actually really annoying for Neeb to almost, for surely, accidentally click on once.
MaSa was down in supply not long ago. He's starting to lead up in supply a little bit. Another Colossus comes out from the main base. It was the one from earlier on, but he doesn't have his Robos anymore. He's not going to be getting any more Colossus. He's not getting any more Disruptors, and he's not going to be getting many more Stalkers or Adepts if he starts losing all of them like here. Oh, Storm is finished up, and there's a lot of High Templar, but... okay, can he actually finish all this off and the reinforcements?
The damage, I think, has already been done. So much production has been cut off. He's had to now morph them all into Archons, and MaSa is on 5 bases. His production also has been on point, too. He's up to 3 starports and 8 barracks. Yeah, he loses factory, I suppose, but Neeb barely holds on. Maybe if he continues getting some amazing storms, he can bring back this game, but at this point, he is behind. He has to bring it back.
Man, what an absolutely crazy game. MaSa also pushing along that left-hand side. He perfectly identifies, yeah, you know what? You don't really have a lot of units. Your High Templar, they are great at straight-up fights with large armies. You know what they aren't so great against? A very mobile Terran force that can just maneuver around and out-position you a bit. There is one High Templar over there, but it doesn't have enough energy for a storm. The Photon Cannon's maybe going to buy a bit more time, some more High Templars being warped in, but MaSa doesn't want to give him that time. Neeb trying to pull that High Templar back, and it looks like it's escaped MaSa's vision for now.
Yeah. It'll get enough for a storm, but MaSa also has Liberators here, a lot of them. He's producing 5 at a time with range on the way, and I don't think Neeb has a way to deal with those.
Oh god, these Liberators also okay, well some of them just started to plump up over here. This is becoming a bit of a problem, even with storms.
That was a big a problem. The Archon is even getting splash damage on those Liberators. That was a mistake from MaSa for sure.
Most of the medevac's going down as well. There's only one medevac left over. These stims, MaSa has been stimming like a madman lately, and he is finally taking out the power units, those Archons. The medevac's getting sniped off, though, and now the Stalkers are pushing maybe a little bit too far forward.
I think they did. Those Marauders weren't even one-shot by the amount of Blink Stalkers that are available, and that's it. GG. MaSa takes game number 1.
Oh, man. MaSa bringing Neeb back down to earth. This demigod has been humanized as... I think a lot of people, again, they look at this group and they say, well, sure, it's exactly what you're saying. Neeb is preparing for BlizzCon. He says, well, it's a bit of a disappointment if I don't 3-0 all of my opponents and just make it out number 1. But MaSa says, no, kid, you need to calm down. I got your number, and I've taken you out multiple times, even in the recent months before. This is not going to be all that different.
That is surprising, but also equally amazing. MaSa, every time I looked back thinking like, well, he just took a bad trade there. Well, I didn't have enough medevacs. Well, is he really keeping up with the macro of Neeb? It was like yes to all accounts. He had kept up with the supply, had kept up with the economy, had kept up with the upgrades. At one point, the major battle that happened around that the natural of Neeb, he was at 3-3 to 2-2. Like, he was actually so on point with his upgrades that I'm going to just skip the intro to continue talking about this game, because it was actually quite an amazing game from the Terran side of things. Neeb did not play poorly. He didn't make too many early game mistakes. He just was actually caught out of position and had someone match his macro potential, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, which is especially insane if you consider, like, for example, the drops that MaSa was trying to do in the bottom left. Remember all those stalkers, like, getting the blink on top of those medevacs, sniping off a ton of those units. MaSa behind that, though, exactly what you were saying. He was expanding, he was thinking about the next steps, and he was continuing the pressure until finally Neeb just caved in.
Yeah. Well, maybe we're going to have to gush more about this guy, depending on how this game goes. In the top left has the blue Terran, he is MaSa.
And Spawn down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, still considered a legend right now. And is probably getting a little bit angry after that last loss. Give it up for TING's Neeb.
Yeah, actually, speaking a little bit to his mentality, you're saying he, getting angry, of course. This guy doesn't really show a lot of emotions. Yeah, exactly. But I do want to say that this guy mentality used to be his number one problem in both ways that we talked about, game time and Puck's mentalities, or MaSa, game time and MaSa. Kind of the same thing. He would have both as the problem. He'd get tilted after one game that went poorly, and he would have days where he just thought he was going to be the worst player in the world. He would have both of those problems. He's gotten a little bit better about not admitting to those problems, at least, even if he still has them. But I would say he no longer gets tilted. He no longer loses to a bunch of cheese early on, gets super tilted, and then just continues losing the cheese. I think he actually gets kind of, quote-unquote, angry, and just comes back with a vengeance. I think that's what he's become lately.
True. That is very, very true. And it's always fun to talk to him after those kind of games, because he's just like, I think I remember some of the series I'd hear him play against other people. And he's just like, they just played so stupid. I mean, who does that? That's so bad to do. You can tell the kind of anger in his voice that he even dropped those games to the way his opponent played. But I think there's nothing that really, I mean, maybe Neeb will have something to say about the way MaSa played. He definitely kind of got away with a little bit of that early greed with the fast third CC and everything, but MaSa played spectacular in that last game. There's really good reason why I think I would get into a lot of arguments with people about it, but I really did believe that MaSa was going to be one of the really big names at Montreal, at Valencia and everything, and I think he did okay, but for the most part, I think MaSa just has his untapped potential that while he doesn't really get to surface it as much at these offline premier events, online, when he's feeling a little bit more comfortable and he's feeling it, just feeling good, like he is right now, clearly, he is just a different demon. He's a beast.
Yeah, obviously. That's the type of game, too, where I'm really, like, on board the MaSa hype train. Because as I said in the games between him and Puck, or Game Time, why do I keep doing that? Against Game Time, yeah, I know he's a good player, and he always shows up to all these North American events and usually dominates, but I've just never been like, that guy's gonna win BlizzCon next year, like it's never been that quite hype, but that game was actually quite beautiful to watch. As I guess someone who's also been struggling, particularly in dealing with Protoss, but another third CC build.
If it works, why fix it? The kind of funny thing, this is inarguably, I think, the most frustrating thing with Neeb that I've heard from other people. It's the most common story, the most common tale I've ever heard told about Neeb, and that's that he doesn't fall for the same thing twice more often than not. He is the kind of player that just immediately, he has this built-in mindset over years and years of doing this, where anytime he experiences a loss, the first thing he does is, and it sounds like very obvious, it sounds like something that everyone does, but he identifies what mistake he made. But the difference is Neeb just doesn't do that mistake almost ever again. He learns from the mistake insanely quickly, and that's part of the reason why he's so talented. But okay, well this Oracle, this is like an old school return to how much damage an Oracle can do.
Yeah, that was a little bit scary.
No, okay.
Oh no! Ooh, clever clever placement of that Widow Mine.
Yeah. Oh my god! The second Widow Mine! God, I love MaSa so much. He's such a mind gamey player. Oh god.
Dude. I can't believe that actually worked. So the main base Widow Mine made a lot of sense, because if he figured you're going to go for 3rd CC again, Oracle openers are so common and so dependable, okay, just assume they're going to go for a Stargate, because he didn't make a Reaper this game. But yeah, they're going to go after the 3rd CC. They're going to kill the SCV and then continue on to greener pastures. But that one down here actually made almost no sense. The only way it would kill it is if they were going after the ramp where they thought Marines could be. That's the only reason they would go past that.
I'll tell you why MaSa is one of the most frustrating and like difficult players to play against. Is he will do things like that, and he will take risks like this. He plants a Widow Mine, and his opponent's side of the map just kind of saying, "Oh god, look! Like who does that? Who plants an Oracle there?" But MaSa does, and it leaves you just saying, "No, that's bad." Because if I just did this, or if I had just gone somewhere else, I would have dismantled your mineral line. You would have had so many fewer defenses and everything. Like this, I easily would have gotten more damage done than I should have if I had just done something else. But MaSa's the player that he not just like takes these risks, but he reads his opponents really, really well, and it's an infuriating thing to have happen to you.
Yeah. I mean, there's... I can't really expand on that, I suppose. Like, you're absolutely correct. If there's any other position the Oracles go through, just like, well, that was a cool idea, but obviously it wasn't going to work, you know? There's such obvious paths. Like, on Acolyte, I think there's the most obvious one down the middle that seems to always catch an Oracle. But I would say these two are actually catching the weirder paths the Oracles take because they're already dodging out other units. This one was dodging the Marines. This one actually just took, like, slightly too direct of a path to the wall that wasn't even there. Like, it should have been going towards the SCVs 100%. And instead it was going this direction for some reason. Neeb's got to be a little frustrated with that. That actually is a large amount of detection that he doesn't have, well, knowledge, that is, of the army that he doesn't have. And he's also done no damage. He killed like a couple Marines and a couple SCVs. MaSa's once again gotten away with the 3rd CC. And even if he tries to be aggressive with some type of Resident Glaives +1 attack, MaSa would actually have so many units because his 3 CC build is already kind of in full effect.
And this is that reminder all of a sudden, the Widow Mine just try and move forward to another location and just catch Neeb by surprise. But this is, again, like one of those reminders where I say, hey, do you remember that micro? Do you remember the kind of positional play that MaSa would go for? Sniping off those sentries, trying to get the good damage on, forces out a Guardian Shield, and even though he does stim for it, well, this is going to be a little bit less energy available on those sentries and a little bit fewer sentries he has to track right down. But oh, good catch on these Marines.
Actually, yeah, I was going to say the stim might have been hurtful.
Okay. Could have been worse.
There weren't that many medivacs, and that was the entire stim. It would have been worth it had he grabbed the Warp Prism. That's exactly what he was looking for, or the concave around the sentries. A couple more Widow Mines just popped off.
2 more Widow Mines inside the mineral line as well that it looks like MaSa's going to try and keep hidden for now, as the Observer is with the army, but it does get a bit dangerous if he wants to try and unburrow those, move them too far forward. Nice micro from Neeb as well, picking up units of the Warp Prism. MaSa definitely a little bit scared right now, pulling the SCVs for a moment, just trying to soak up a couple of hits, but now those sentries, they don't exactly do as much damage, so Neeb really needs to warp in some more units.
But he does have that Warp Prism still alive, but the sentries are losing their utility. There are a couple of force fields. Yeah, that was really nice. 4 Widow Mines will actually stop Neeb from continuing this push. He adds on the gas as he starts building probes. And he's going to go on to more of a macro game, but that was supposed to do more damage. That was a delicate little dance. But at the end, MaSa survived and didn't even have to pull his SCVs for that long. He didn't really lose anything.
The critical thing, I think, is exactly what you were saying. Neeb needed to do more damage because you look, he has a Stargate from earlier. He has a Twilight Council, which is awesome. You can research Blink and Resident Glaives, and he has a Robo, which is great. You can get Observers up and everything. But he doesn't have the transitionary tech. He doesn't have Robotics Bay. He doesn't have a Templar Archives. He doesn't have those ways. He can move into the mid-game, whereas MaSa's already started Liberator production. This is where things get dicey for Neeb, but I like the Warp Prism harassment.
Yeah, Warp Prism harassment could definitely buy more time. It can definitely free up a 4th base to be easier to grab, because otherwise MaSa is pushing across the map, looking a little bit dangerous. And speaking of across the map, he had a Widow Mine drop. It does all burrow, but unfortunately not going to get any great shots. Loses the medevac for it. Only gets a Stalker and a couple of probes.
Yeah. Well, still able to force some lost mining time, just kind of taxing that extra APM. And as we saw, Neeb is not infallible. He may be considered kind of the rock solid player of North America. But in that last game, we definitely saw him starting to crumble a little bit to the pressure, starting to fall prey to some mistakes. So MaSa just continuing to do those small little things. It does pick away at that kind of attention span.
Well, things to set on a little bit. MaSa is... It's kind of weird because last game we saw him be the aggressor. He had the attacks that actually didn't even look like they worked out that well, but in the end he still had like the really nicely timed upgrades, fourth base. All of his macro was really hitting its stride. This game, even though he defended and didn't have as many drops that were cleaned up, that would have been drop excluded, he actually isn't as on point with the macro. Neeb has the faster double upgrades. He has the faster fourth base, which MaSa was... right on time with Neeb last time, so like a couple of seconds difference. It's big here.
Okay, we'll see if this Warp Prism can buy Neeb a little bit more time, as like you were saying, the slightly faster fourth base for Neeb is definitely going to become an advantage, but he needs time to make it an advantage. And if MaSa decides, hey, I'm close to max out, let's push out, then this becomes a different situation. Oh, Liberator can go after the Warp Prism. Doesn't deny the Warping, though, and that's a lot of adepts that can buy a substantial amount of time. MaSa's just still continuing to move out, though. It seems like he feels he will eventually clean this all up.
That is a dangerous thing to assume. I don't know what that was that he just caught, but he's using a lot of SCVs. The Liberator might be able to clean this up without taking devastating amounts of losses. 20 is not so bad yet.
Playing forward on the other side of the map, though, trying to catch some of the Liberators. MaSa stimming on forward, some sentries, throwing out some force fields, and decent, pretty damn good disruptor hit, picking away at a lot of MaSa's force, which was committed to doing something here.
The Liberators are still a little bit complicated to take care of, but the army is really low on health. The medevacs are all dry. The Widowmine's going to pop off, and there aren't enough Blink Stalkers to take care of the rest of the Liberators.
Oh god, this is actually a really, really weird trade, but at the end of the day, MaSa needed better than just a decent trade. He needed better than a good trade. He needed a fantastic trade. He needed that to snowball, to kill a base or do something.
Yeah, he lost 30 SCVs, 44 in total in this game, and that was devastating. He didn't have a planetary set up yet. He lost his army while doing this. He still has an army supply, but he's also fallen behind on upgrades. He really is quite all in here.
Okay, here we go. MaSa gonna rely on that micro. One lone Void Ray, interestingly, in the mix. Gonna help out a bit versus Liberators. Blink on forward. Disruptor shots coming on out. Not getting the most amazing connections, but MaSa just doesn't seem to have that many bio units left over. Steal the Liberators, pick away at this army. MaSa is starting to clean up a few units, but there's just not enough, it seems.
That was so close to working, but GG is called, and Neeb takes game number 2.
Oh, what a close game. What a action-packed series. Zombie Grub, this banana grin, if it gets any bigger, my face will start peeling off. Like my mouth will come off my face because I can't grin any higher right now. I'm having so much fun with this series. Yeah,
this is the series, I think, of the Knights for sure. I was a little worried that maybe MaSa just wouldn't be up to the task and Neeb would just be too good looking for BlizzCon, but he's clearly getting his practice worth up against this Terran player. But guys, we're going to be getting into Abyssal Reef next. It's tied up 1-1, but we'll first take a 2-minute break. See you soon. Welcome back. It is game number 3. In the top left, as the blue Terran, it's MaSa.
And down in the bottom right, we have the yellow Protoss player. It's TING's Neeb.
Oh, man. Kind of needed that break myself. Those last 2 games are really action-packed, quite back and forth, and these guys were even talking in the lobby saying, like, Neeb thought he was dead, MaSa thought that the Marines would take care of the Warp Prism. They had a lot of thoughts.
MaSa was also saying, I really suck at multitasking. I'm like, oh, you.
Yeah, I mean, that last game was not the highlight of his multitasking, I suppose, but the first game kind of was. That was really impressive. Yeah. Thank you to Mubuntu for the Twitch Prime sub after that super hype. Game number 2.
Old Mubuntu. Always good to see that guy around. Or gal, I actually don't know.
Yeah, be careful. So, to note, every game so far has been a 3cc build from MaSa, but also he's opened up with Marine, now to Reaper. The first game, the probe was caught off guard by the timing. Marine produces a little bit faster, so it died. Second game, he managed to let it survive, but I think he's going to survive here again. He still tries his best to do the probe micro and bother MaSa a lot. And I don't know if he'll take another Marine opener to mean that it's another 3cc opener.
Yeah, that is actually the exact thing that you have to worry about with MaSa is thinking too much along those lines. You end up just kind of mind gaming yourself. That's how you play into MaSa's hand is you say, oh man, like he's making it look like a 3cc opener, so is it a 3cc opener? It's almost as if we're playing rock, paper, scissors, and right before we're about to go, I just won like with a rock versus a paper. I'm like, I just tell you, I'm gonna go rock again. Now you start getting into your own mind. You start psyching yourself out. So I think one of the best things you can do is just to try and be really adamant about scouting and not worry about the potential. Oh God, Neeb, he has 2 idle probes. Oh, okay, fixing it.
Casual.
You just call Neeb a casual?
This guy's actually probably the hardest worker on NA. He seems to think so. He's actually literally said that.
Yeah. It's you know what's actually who's really funny to talk to about that? Scarlet. Scarlet has some thoughts about Neeb and how he always says that, which hopefully I'll be able to reveal in a documentary about North American StarCraft players at some point.
So I guess I can't ask what she says.
You can ask.
Oh, okay. What did she say?
But I won't tell. Oh, hold that thought. I'll get back to that in a bit. Adept actually kills 1 Marine and makes his way out of there. That's actually pretty nice. MaSa, I think he barely got his depots raised just in the nick of time. The Adept gonna be able to make its way back over the Natch. Oh, cancels the shade. Could have gotten 1 worker kill, but wants to play it safe.
I think he did a Nefarious 671 for the sub as well. So tell us about what is Scarlet saying.
Oh, but the Adept makes its way back into the natural. It's getting a focus fire down. Looks like it's not going to be able to get the kill. Almost gets a SCV. That was also the weakened SCV, so kind of nice follow-up over there. Neeb coming out with an Oracle behind this. And Scarlet likes to say that Neeb is really hard-working for sure, but he definitely puts up a lot more to his hard work than she thinks he really should, and that a lot of it is just like raw talent.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that then.
Yeah. Which I don't think it's anything super crazy, but this Oracle, it's actually going to be able to get some really good damage done.
So, okay, I have a lot of thoughts about how this went down, right? So he's going to kill the last Marine and a couple of SCVs. Must be careful about the reinforcing Marines, basically.
Oh.
Actually, if it's one at a time... Okay, never mind. Oh, lordy. All right, so, first of all, MaSa not going for 3cc. That was the first time Neeb got sight on the second barracks. So, I think that's the first time he would have been able to tell it's not 30cc, and now he knows that it's actually a triple racks into Starport. So he's got to be ready for an attack earlier. Another Oracle actually comes in here.
Zombie Grub, I don't know if there's going to be an earlier attack. I actually think that this is just too much damage. There's a point where it is very difficult to recover against a player of Neeb's caliber, and we've passed that point.
So remember when we talked last game about how Neeb just is like, why would you do this? Like, if only he'd moved the Widow Mines to a different place, like I wouldn't have lost it. Like, this is a stupid thing to do. Neeb sometimes thinks that. Last game was a really good show of that. How the Widow Mines just took them out seemingly randomly. The best thing you can do against a person that places down random Widow Mines is probably just punch them in the face. Random Widow Mines are kind of like the guy that's like...
His answer.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's kind of like the guy that's like doing all like the hand movements, trying to like trick you out in a fight, and you just punch him in the face.
It's the Indiana Jones reaction where you have the guy doing flips and like flipping a sword around, and he just pulls out a gun and shoots him. It's just like, all right, let's move on.
The chance that works is still like not 100%, right? Because a Widow Mine could have literally been right here where the Oracles are, and that's a fair enough spot to put a Widow Mine. It could have been over here to catch the Adept, and that's a fair enough spot to put the Widow Mine. But because MaSa was once again trying to be a clever little shit about it and put his Widow Mine behind his barracks instead of like in a place that would actually help, Neeb just dominated his army. And you're totally right about the early attack no longer happening. He no longer has an army to do a real early attack. And Neeb just gained himself such a good lead in this game. I don't know what MaSa's really going to do to come back from it.
It's such a difficult and kind of weird position because we haven't seen this sort of damage happen against particularly the Marine count in a long time. This is like what Oracle openings used to mean back in the Heart of the Swarm and stuff, where you potentially kill a lot of Marines and then go after some SCVs. And yes, a decent number of SCVs died. 7 workers is a good amount of damage, but 7 workers, Okay, well that's actually nice. I really love that Neeb splits off one of the oracles that gets targeted down at the last second, so that the other 2 oracles don't take any kind of additional damage. But yeah, this is one of those situations where I think Neeb has just done so much in halting MaSa's ability to do counter damage and pull himself back from a bad situation.
Oh, well, so I was worried that Neeb didn't know there's a tank push on the way. It is Abyssal Reef, though, and that's, like, kind of an obvious thing to think. But he also saw the factory had a tech lab on it for an extended period of time, and I think there's also something to be assumed with that. The medevac is carrying the tanks, which is quite clever and actually the safest way to do it. But Neeb, he's been planning on going for an adept attack. He's got a proxy gateway set up for counters if this does just stall out. And he has a lot of adepts to try and take care of this with.
Oh, that's an absurd number of adepts. The siege tanks could try and focus fire down on some of those sentries and get some really quick damage done, but that just leaves the adepts to slaughter everything.
Yeah, the Immortal was perfectly positioned too, or rather the tanks were imperfectly positioned. He's just gonna tap out, GG.
And in one of the most one-sided matches that we've had, I don't even want to say for that series. I actually want to say today, kind of surprisingly enough, Neeb goes up 2-1.
Yeah. Last game it was still a bit of a teeter-totter, and he didn't quite punch him back for that first game, but that third game is where he really got revenge for the first one he lost.
Yeah. And the cool thing about MaSa, though, that I will say is even though he's now going to be sitting down 1-2, we're talking about how the mentality struggles that MaSa will oftentimes have, they're rarely within a game or within a series kind of situation. More often than not, it's kind of MaSa isn't really feeling it mentally on a particular day or something. So I'm not too worried about him getting too shaken up about that, even if it was kind of a dominating game. MaSa's the kind of player that'll shake it off and be like, yeah, Neeb's better than me. Like, I'm just so bad at this game. It's fine. Like, we'll just go into game number 4. And that's kind of probably the mentality he walked into game number 1 and game number 2 with. And also game number 3.
All right, game number 4 is going to be on Mech Depot. See you guys soon. Okay, after a back and forth first 2 games, that third game was a bit of a slap. Can he do it again? In the top right, as the yellow Protoss, it is Ting's Neeb.
And in the bottom left of the corner of the map, we have the blue Terran player. Give it up for MaSa. Saying, you don't slap your elders, son.
Do you want to talk about the in-game chat?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed this. MaSa was telling Neeb, you don't need to scout so adamantly, I'm saving my builds for next week, which is next week for those who don't know. Kings of the North, both these players are going to be there. And I really like that because we were talking about how Neeb has BlizzCon, he's going gung-ho. He may be taking this kind of more as like, okay, like I should be just dominating these, like all the people in this group and everything. I got my sights set a little bit higher and everything. And he would even maybe be the player that would save some of his builds in preparation for BlizzCon. But MaSa's like, no, actually, I'm saving builds versus you. I'm kind of going easy on you right now.
I love that he said he doesn't need a scout and then he's going to proxy a factory, I assume. So this SCP I thought was scouted by the probe leaving, but maybe Neeb thought it just disappeared as soon as it saw the Nexus be put down, or I don't know what, but it has actually missed the SCV, and this isn't really an obvious telltale sign that something is amiss. One SCV missing, second CC still gonna come down, but
Zombie Grub, this is like the most MaSa thing that's happened today. Is he tells someone you really don't need to scout as a joke? But, like, who on earth, in their right mind, would even joke about bringing up the topic of how much someone is scouting and then go for a proxy that would require a good amount of scouting to really see coming? Like, nobody in their right mind would do it unless they were just going for, like, the 3rd level, 4th level mind game. And that is what MaSa is. Oh, my God. He went too far, Zombie Grub. He went too deep on the mind game.
He was so close to having this effectively work, though. It is so difficult to tell this is the build they're going for, since it's one less SEV. They even scouting that the gas a little bit earlier is not too rare in PvT at all. So it really was just like kind of throwing it out there. Well, like he could be proxying, I guess, and then and then scouting for it. Like, there's nothing else that really would have told him that was there. It could have been down here, too, on the low ground, and that would have been a little bit trickier, but he just scouted. He has to cancel it. He's just going to throw down a third CC instead. Oh, well.
But how far back does this really set him, Zombie Grub? Having to cancel that factory.
You know, I actually wouldn't say that bad, that far back. It was only about halfway done, and he didn't, like, have a second gas in preparation for also, like, proxying a starport or getting a cyclone or something. I think he was just going to actually rally Widow Mines forward. So I would say it's not so bad that it was scouted, especially since he just kind of acknowledged it, canceled it, and then went into a different build.
Yeah.
It definitely is a blip, and if Neeb had gone for a Stargate, it actually might have been really bad, because, of course, there'd be no Widow Mines on this side of the map, and he could just go directly to the main base, but it's a robo opener.
And it's not just a robo opener, it's like a really old school PvT opener that we've seen come back into play every, I would say, like, 40th game, which is the Disruptor drops, I believe. This is a 1-gate robo, get out a Warp Prism, potentially even research Gravitic Drive and just run around on the Disruptor. At least this is what it looks like it's going to be setting up for.
I do believe that's what he's setting up for. Big thanks to Mr. Boris Makarov for the 39-month resub. Been with us a long time. I always appreciate having you here. But, you know, the Disruptor drop, so it's definitely a hit or miss build. I think if it stays alive the entire game, that's when it's effective. I don't even care like what numbers of kills it gets or what it kills. I think just keeping it alive, it guarantees like eventually it adds up, right? 3 SCVs there, 6 Marines over there. And then it's a good build, especially if you can also macro flawlessly behind it, which of course not many people can do. Even the guys that love this build, Neeb's going to be probably one of the few that can actually really keep up with the macro behind keeping the Warp Prism alive. So in this specific player's hands, I think this is a great thing to do against a 3CC player. Like, they're not going to have a lot of stack defense. They're going to have a lot of bases to look after, too. Even if they try their best to keep it safe, it's going to be difficult. And it also will take care of mass amounts of units, which eventually is going to become a direct push to Neeb's face. And he's going to bring back the Disruptor and have that at least going for him to defend.
All right, well, here we go. Gravitic Drive Warp Prism suddenly shocks MaSa, but getting only 2 kills, surprisingly enough. That really looked like it was setting up for more, but I don't know. Maybe MaSa's just a master of skirting the edges of that.
I guess because he got the mule, it looked like a bit more.
Yeah, you know, that's definitely possible.
Getting the mule is pretty important. So there shouldn't really be a lot of Widow Mines, which is another, like, I think, good thing to do against 3CC. He knows the fact he was canceled. There's not a lot to begin with, but then also 3rd CC, you're looking more towards the bio and the medevacs. So he doesn't really have to worry about this getting popped off, but he does have to worry about missile turrets. Yeah,
that's going to be definitely annoying. Oh, man, the pre-spread over here from MaSa, really solid. He actually only loses three Marines to the 2 Disruptor shots, so about as good as you could really ask for if you're just kind of sacrifice the Marines for the greater good.
This is interesting. This is a very fast second starport. If he has it landed on location, if he has the 3rd CC landed and mining, that I would say is like funnily fast, but not that bad. But before the 3rd CC is even down, before he's even started +1 armor, this is fast and meant to be hidden.
Okay. Oh, God. MaSa tried to cut off that Warp Prism with some Marines inside of a medevac, and also the Viking trying to push it up into the medevac, but Neeb just barely holds on to it. Sorry about that.
No, that was really important. It almost died, so definitely.
Oh, might almost die again. Okay. He's on point.
He just scoops up. Oh, no.
Oh, MaSa.
No.
Oh, the shields are off, Zombie Grub, and it's just going to be on cooldown for a little bit longer, so barely 1 health.
No. Oh, no. The
Vikings! Boom! Gets 1 Disruptor out, but loses the other one and loses that map presence that he was definitely been taking advantage of. Really nice play from MaSa.
Dang, that was a perfectly timed Viking. All right, so it's really great that he takes out that Warp Prism. It didn't last as long as like it should. It's really hard to judge Disruptor builds because so much of it has to do with the macro behind it. But generally, I would say that felt like a little too short of a lifespan. But he did get up to double Colossus. A third one on the way. He's got some good upgrades on the way. But now I'm less concerned about the Disruptors dying, and the War Prism dying, and more about the lack of Scout on that starport. He could even potentially hide the amount of Liberators he has, get up to like 6 or 9 with range. And Neeb will have no idea it's on the way. He even just denied the Hallucinated Phoenix.
He was nanometers away from scouting the Fusion Core, which that alone would have been helpful to know. Advanced Ballistics, the Liberator range upgrade was on the way. But MaSa does have to make a actual push out with this army because Neeb has that 4th base already well situated, going up. He's knocking down the rocks, trying to create a defensible position. Little does he know that knocking down those rocks may actually make this a little bit more difficult now to deal with MaSa. Although this catching this army off guard is really, really nice, snagging a lot of units over here. MaSa is actually forced back after losing a ton of army supply.
That was problematic. He can't depend entirely on the Liberators, as cool as they will be in a second here. And that just means that it also means Neeb feels comfortable moving into this army before MaSa is quite ready to go. He has, I think, 6 Liberators, has to cancel the 4th CC.
Oh god. And these Stalkers have blink. They're blinking back against these Marines and Marauders instead of blinking forward onto Liberators because he just has overwhelming numbers. Neeb takes the 3-1 versus MaSa, moves out of the Ting group stage, and it's gonna feel good. Only having dropped 1 map.
Darn. I was really hoping that fast Liberator build would have been something cool to talk about, but I think 2 things really happened that time, which was, 1, losing so many Marauders, and then giving Neeb the go-ahead to attack into him before he had 6 Liberators, because 3 more were, like, about to pop out. And then also that Neeb did go for Colossus Blink. That is actually a good build to have against Liberators. Colossus don't ever sound like the counter, but they kind of are, and that weird dynamic that they have. And obviously a lot of Blink Stalkers. If he had gone into, like, Charge Light High Templar, he would have been screwed. Mass Adepts would have been screwed. But timing didn't work out.
Yeah, and just the fact that Neeb was going for a 2-2 Colossus Stalker timing, so he wasn't really teching behind the Colossus. It's a really strong build, and MaSa was just a little bit behind. I can say that with confidence because I'm literally just reading exactly what Neeb is responding to MaSa about in the chat. He's just, MaSa was saying, I felt like I wasn't that far behind. Like, why was my army so small compared to yours? But, well, Neeb definitely getting the better end of that, and it's going to feel good again. He's done for the night. He's advanced on out and can safely move on to the next stage of the Ting Open.
Are these the kind of builds you are saving? MaSa says, no, I'm bluffing. I don't have anything.
God, MaSa, that actually does. He's like the player that he'll say that and he'll be like, you do have something, don't you?
Yeah. Well, that was certainly an interesting series. The last 2 games weren't quite as hype as the first 2, but a well-rounded best of 5 for sure. And that's going to let Neeb off to do whatever he wants for the rest of the night. He is through. He has won. And MaSa now has to play against Puck in another PvT. These have not played together yet, as much as my brain kept telling me that they did. It will be a fresh best of 5 once their vetoes are done. So, guys, thank you for watching. Remember, this is sponsored entirely by Ting. You can go to bttv.ting.com. So many T's in there to check out more about them. If you're in the U.S. and you use a lot of Wi-Fi, not data, definitely check them out. As well as check out the Matcherino, because you can donate your own money if you would like to contribute to the prize pool for the players, or just check out what they have for sale in the shop they have there. There's going to be shirts and hats, and there's tiers as well, goals that you want to set to. Whoopsie daisy. Like having Jesse do a backflip and stuff like that. So definitely check out the Matcherino. Please link it in chat as I say this. And
can he do a backflip?
He can. Yeah, and he'll prove it if you guys reach the goal.
What? He's so... Oh my god, that's insane. He's so tall. You would think, like, I don't know, like he just bump his head trying to do it because he's so tall.
He'll prove it in a video if you guys contribute, so get on it.
Can you guys please raise this money so like I can see this, because I kind of don't believe him.
Well, I've actually, I'm not going to spoil it. We'll see if you can do it or not.
I'm not going to spoil it.
But also, guys, if you have Twitch Prime, if you have that Prime sub up and ready to go, please consider using it on us. If you have been using it on us, don't forget to reuse it. And then subs are still half off if you're thinking about subbing. The replays of this event will only be sent out after the entire season is done, to be fair to all the players. But eventually, we do send those out, and a lot of other replays as well. So consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back with the decider match, Puck versus MaSa.